The series opens with a press conference at the White House, where President Curtis is getting ready to make a very important announcement. Reporters from every network in the city have shown up for the event, and the president thanks them for coming. Once he starts speaking, he informs the nation that today he killed Paul Bunyan, the legendary, gigantic lumberjack who had turned the forests of states like Wisconsin into a complete nightmare. According to his own reports, written by himself, Paul Bunyan had used his legendary size and status to hide 30 years of murders, cannibalism, and plenty more atrocities. That's why his hand didn't shake when he cut off Bunyan's head with a boomerang he carved himself, made of obsidian, the sharpest glass on earth. And now that justice has been served, he has something to say to everyone who wants to use their superstar status to live above the law. It's time to tremble, bitches, because Curtis is here. The first question from the reporters asks whether it's true that he's using taxpayer money and cutting social programs to play Batman, but Curtis saves his comments and simply tells them those skills are what let him capture Bunyan in record time. Next, the reporters want to know whether killing a national icon will boost his approval numbers, but Curtis is confident that every family massacred by that thing will surely be glad it's finally dead. So basically, happy families equal votes in his favor. A few seconds later, the president steps away and a woman appears, trying to follow him into the next room. But when his loyal right-hand man and bodyguard stops her, she reveals that she's the new chief of staff and that she's here to meet the president. The woman introduces herself as Banks, and she has full authority to fire him if she wants to. In fact, she's already read his file. She knows his name is O'Doyle and that he's served the nation faithfully for many years. And she's not here to make enemies, just to make things better. The commotion catches the president's attention, and he reminds O'Doyle that the rule is shoot first, ask questions later. Still, Banks moves fast and introduces herself once more. Unfortunately, one of the reporters catches her eye because someone who looks exactly like him has appeared outside the window, and the team realizes they're about to be hit by a doppelganger attack. The fake reporter instantly turns into a strange creature and starts climbing up the walls toward the ceiling. Before it can turn its attention to the president, O'Doyle draws his weapon and shreds its legs and arms with 4 dead-on shots. Once the monster hits the floor, O'Doyle swaps his clip for explosive rounds, and with a single shot, he makes the monster swell up until it bursts like a balloon full of blood and guts, splattering everyone in the room. According to O'Doyle's knowledge, doppelgangers are solitary hunters, which means Banks is probably exactly who she says she is and is allowed to meet the president, but he'll be keeping an eye on her. Once the introductions are finally done, Banks reveals that she's a synthetic and has a brain chip that lets her do all kinds of different things, like speaking every language on the planet and analyzing new languages in seconds. On top of that, she can learn any skill, so basically it's like that scene from The Matrix, where they learn to fight by injecting the knowledge straight into their brains. Unfortunately, O'Doyle isn't a fan of these tricks. He's old school, and he's also got goblin blood in him, so magic and mysticism make him nervous. So it's best to focus on the job, since the president has a very busy agenda today. But all he really wants to know is whether she can recite the RoboCop script word for word and make origami paper figures. Right then, there's a knock at the door, and Janice, the president's assistant, tells them a man from the CIA has come to see them. He immediately gets scared and tells his trusted men not to say the name of anyone they care about, because that person will wake up dead the next day. Banks asks him why he's afraid of the CIA if he's the president and is supposedly above them, but he reminds her that Kennedy thought the same thing, and look how that turned out. Once the man walks into the office, he introduces himself as Jack Coffey and says he came as soon as he heard they had a new employee working closely with the president. He read her file, and she seems very capable, but he wants to know if she has any distant cousins who might benefit from her position. Jack tricks them with the sound of a bomb about to go off, and while O'Doyle rushes the president away and Banks follows them toward the shelter, Jack pulls out the finger of the late President Carter and places it on a hidden scanner in the wall. A secret door immediately opens, with 2 tubes that carry him straight into a restricted zone. By the time Curtis realizes what's happening, Coffey already has a big head start, but O'Doyle has a few tricks of his own, and a genetic modification from a snake lets him sense heat, so he knows exactly where Coffey is headed. Banks suggests they report this right away, but Curtis tells her she still has a lot to learn about the job. They'll probably have to kill Coffey, and that's not exactly in the Constitution. When they finally reach the vault, they find a hologram that fools them for a few seconds, but they know Coffey just stole an ultra-secret tape, the kind that's bound to cause a massive scandal, so they need to catch him before some very famous person's nude photos get out. Unfortunately, Coffee makes it to the rocket-powered wheelchairs and gets a big head start. The other wheelchairs don't have that kind of technology, so they end up losing to the CIA. Still, Banks spots a garage that used to belong to President Reagan, but it's locked behind a biometric scanner nobody has ever managed to crack. Banks tells them every piece of 80s tech has its tricks, so she plugs herself in directly with a cable that comes out of her brain. A few seconds later, the door opens and Knight Rider's car appears, ready for them to hop in and resume the chase. Even though they get a chance to run Coffee over, that would look really bad in the report, so Banks refuses, letting him make it to the exit, since she's not willing to run down a man in a wheelchair. But when that man pulls a gun and shoots at them, she changes her mind, so she floors it and runs him over right in the middle of the city, where everyone can see. The tape rolls off down the street, and Banks tells the men to go after the agent while she goes to retrieve it. Right then, we see the car ejecting a bunch of liquor bottles, syringes, and other items that will make sure Coffee walks away from the crash unscathed. Coffee manages to reach a CIA van that was waiting suspiciously close to the crash site, so he climbs in and they speed off. Unfortunately for them, O'Doyle is an unstoppable machine and can run at a speed they never saw coming. On top of that, he's got perfect aim, and he blows out the van's tires with 2 shots. That forces 2 armed CIA agents to throw open the van's doors and unleash a rain of bullets at him. But just like in the video game Max Payne, O'Doyle has the ability to slow down time and move at superhuman speed, managing to dodge every single bullet. Realizing they can't kill him the way the CIA usually does, they fire off a set of rockets and the van goes flying, leaving O'Doyle empty-handed and in tears. So the president has to comfort him until he pulls himself together. Luckily for them, Banks shows up with the tape, which she managed to recover from a dog that tried to run off with it. But by using her bracelet, she was able to learn its language and forced it to stop. Banks ends up opening the container, and inside they find 2 tapes about the moon landing, but one of them is labeled real, and Curtis doesn't have a decent excuse to give her at this point. So they head back to the White House so he can show her what's on the tape. It turns out that even though the moon landing was mostly real, the ending was filmed a couple of times, just in case something went horribly wrong when the man set foot on a distant planet. The truth is that 20 people died during the production, most of them writers, along with anyone capable of leaking the information. The reason the CIA wants it back is that producing that fake ending cost twice as much as the real one, and that would put the current administration in a very bad position. So they're going to do exactly what they should have done before: beat the CIA at its own game. A few seconds later, Janice shows up with a message from the CIA, who say that whatever happened today actually didn't happen. And would they be so kind as to send over the tapes, since the CIA still has bad intentions, but still hasn't fixed the van's tires? At that point, the president tells her to do exactly what she always does with every CIA message. But Janice tells him she can't eat them anymore. She's gotten too old and doesn't have the same saliva she used to, so she'll do it in pieces, and not in front of them, since it's pretty depressing to watch. But all these secrets and betrayals among people who are supposed to be on the same side aren't exactly what Banks signed up for, so she ends up quitting, and the president tells her she can't do that. She's become too necessary, and she knows too much. Before she can leave, O'Doyle stops by to have a short talk and admit that he feels terrible for failing her earlier, so he's there to ask for her help so they can sort this whole situation out as soon as possible. Right then, the scene shifts to a local carnival, where a man in a suit and sunglasses meets up with an old man behind the cotton candy stand. The man in the suit turns out to be the president, and the old man is Coffee, who has come for the tapes, and he reveals that the CIA has very important information about the president that he doesn't want made public, and that he's willing to sacrifice the moon landing scandal to save his own skin. But the meeting ends in a scuffle, and Coffee pulls a gun, shooting the president in the chest, just like he's done several times before on past occasions. Luckily, the tape was tucked under his suit and managed to stop the bullet. The CIA agent grabs what's left of the tape and tries to make a run for his trusted van, but it turns out O'Doyle got there first and stole the van, catching him by surprise when he opens the door and grabs him hard by the throat to subdue him. The surprise, though, is that Coffee didn't steal the fake moon landing tape. meaning they actually don't want to expose the scandal of the people who died during filming. Instead, he was trying to grab the original tape, the one that's been studied thousands of times, but that now has a certain value to the CIA, and it's time for an interrogation. The team hauls him straight into a secret room, where they tie him to a chair, ready to do whatever it takes to get him to tell the truth, except that word isn't exactly something the CIA knows, or something covered in their training. These are men who live to lie. Luckily, O'Doyle has picked up several torture techniques over his long career that could come in handy right now. Coffee won't be the first agent, and certainly won't be the last, that O'Doyle tortures. And a few seconds later, we see him pull out a huge machete to give him something called a Colombian necktie. But it turns out, Coffee is more of a chicken than he looks, and against all his training, he ends up telling them there's something on the original moon landing tape that needs to disappear. Something they hadn't been able to see before because of the resolution they were using. So when Banks switches the format to widescreen, what they've been looking for finally appears. In Buzz Aldrin's arms, you can see he's holding a baby, and he's about to place it inside some kind of giant glass sphere, something that wasn't in the original tape, because it turns out the mission to the moon wasn't just about exploration. They also carried out a colonization experiment, where they basically abandoned a baby to fend for itself with nothing but a box of cereal. The news that there's a giant armored glass hamster wheel on the moon with a mummified baby inside would be a scandal the CIA could never recover from. That's why they're doing all of this. But Banks knows Coffee isn't telling them everything, and when she manages to zoom in enough on the baby, she notices it has a barcode on its forehead, which means human cloning has already happened, and the CIA has kept it secret. On top of that, once they scan the barcode, they realize it's linked to telemetry, which means the baby isn't dead. It's currently moving around on the moon, and that is genuinely relevant information. The news of the first human raised on the moon is unprecedented, and the fact that they're trying to cover it up is about the most despicable thing anyone could come up with, which makes Curtis lose his patience and grab him by the throat. He screams in the CIA agent's face that he won't let them murder the first of his kind to survive in space just to protect their dirty secret. But Coffee laughs and tells them that this whole time he's had a camera in his rectum and has recorded everything that's happened over the last few minutes, which means his colleagues already have the location of Adam, the baby who grew up on the moon, and will soon be there to put a bullet in his head and erase any trace that any of this ever happened. Curtis grabs him by the throat and squeezes until he passes out. But before he passes out, he begs them not to let him fall asleep, since the dreams of trained children are too terrifying. Now the question is how to get to the moon, given that NASA has been completely compromised by the CIA since the 80s. But Curtis has the solution to all of this: an old friend from high school, someone you've probably already met. That same afternoon, the president is in Rick's garage, asking to borrow his ship for a while. The moment they leave, Morty laughs and tells his grandpa he doesn't think they'll get very far. They probably only got approved for 10 episodes and will never be as special as they are. Right then, Rick reminds him they have plenty of multiverses left to visit and need to get ready for the next season, which may or may not happen. By that point, the president and his companions are just about to reach the moon, but O'Doyle is annoyed because he got stuck with the back seat, and Banks takes the chance to humiliate him a bit more, pushing him even further back. Before they can start arguing, the president tells them there's a ship up ahead, and once they get closer, they can see it's called the USS Murder. So it's got to be them, and they need to be stopped. He takes control of the ship and rams them with a small but concentrated burst of force, knocking them off course and getting the edge they need to reach the moon first. All of this thanks to Rick's technology, since he's always been several generations ahead of his time. A few seconds later, the ship lands near an abandoned biodome where Adam is supposedly living, and his signal guides them through the tunnels. There, the team finds not just one pod, but dozens of them, which means Adam wasn't the first or the last of the babies abandoned on the moon. Further ahead, they find a room that reeks like a high school gym, and the black light coming off Banks's bracelet reveals that the place is completely covered in semen and may well be some kind of rec room, which is no surprise at all for someone who's been trapped in this place for over 60 years. And that's where they finally meet Adam, the first man to grow up and live on the moon, entirely alone. He looks gaunt, and his eyes are completely swollen from watching so much pornography stockpiled on NASA's hard drives. On top of that, he's a huge JFK fan and tries to imitate him in every way he can. Adam tells them his body evolved differently from theirs, which means his buttocks turned into lungs, letting him breathe in the lunar environment, which is honestly pretty impressive. Curtis tells him they've come to take him home, but Adam is excited about something else entirely. According to the tape, JFK left him. Once he returns to Earth, he will undoubtedly become the new president and lead the nation and the whole world into an era of prosperity like never seen before. It turns out Adam was cloned from JFK's blood, which means the promise made by his father still holds. This entire experiment was overseen by the CIA and NASA. Now it's time for Adam to return to Earth and become the nation's new leader. But even though JFK may have been Curtis's favorite president, but he has no intention of letting his job get taken over by an old man with lung buttocks who worships the CIA, the agency with more secrets and betrayals than any other. So this is no longer a rescue mission. The group wants to know where the rest of the moon babies are, but this is where Adam turns a little psychotic. He tells them they're asking the wrong question. It's not about where the moon babies are, it's about what they're like, and the answer is delicious. Realizing that Adam has eaten every single baby the CIA sent up there over the years, the disgust and shock are overwhelming. So now O'Doyle knows exactly what to do and draws his weapon to execute him. But Adam reacts fast and tells them it's time to claim his legacy, pulling a lever and making his escape, thanking them along the way for bringing the ship that will take him home. After he pulls the lever, a door opens, revealing half a dozen state-of-the-art robots with his father's face, ready to protect him. Although O'Doyle manages to take out a couple of them with his gun, there's not much more they can do against the lasers tearing everything apart around them. But the worst part is that Adam has already reached the control center. From there, he activates a supergravity field that drags everyone to the ground, including the bullets O'Doyle is firing, which freeze in midair and then drop, unable to hurt the robots, who seem to withstand the gravity just fine, and now it looks like nothing can stop them. Using his snake-based sensory power, O'Doyle tells them Adam is heading straight for the ship, and they can't allow a baby-eating cannibal to become the nation's new president. Fortunately for them, Banks has the solution. After popping open a panel in the floor, she plugs herself directly into the ship's controls, and she's able to cancel the gravity. That lets the fight go on and gives O'Doyle the seconds he needs for Curtis to escape the dome and catch up to Adam before he reaches the ship, sparking a fight between them that Adam is very well prepared for, telling Curtis that there's only room for one president, and his name is Adam Fitzgerald Kennedy. Inside the dome, things get complicated, and a huge medical robot loaded with saws and needles shows up just as O'Doyle is floating around, doing his best to take down the Kennedy robots. All that chaos makes O'Doyle throw up, and now he has no idea how to beat the thing. Meanwhile, outside, Adam is using the American flag to hit Curtis, who has no choice but to grab the MTV flag to even out the fight. Banks tells him she'll throw him toward the ceiling, and once he's up there, crank up the supergravity so his bullets fire at nearly supersonic speed, letting them punch through the robot's thick armor and destroy it. But that also means he crashes back down to the ground with tremendous force, and he ends up knocked out. The bad news is that once all the robots are destroyed, Banks reveals that something in the ship's control center corrupted her system, and now she's changed completely. She wants to go back to Earth and become immensely rich, and do whatever she pleases, like destroying cities and ruling over the ashes. Don't. So she leaves O'Doyle stranded in the middle of a fire, covered in vomit. At the same time, Curtis figures out how to beat Adam and starts squeezing his lung buttocks to suffocate him. Before Banks can abandon them, the president shouts the keyword and reboots her system, making her come back for them. Once everyone is back on Earth, reporters surround the ship, and the president tells them to get lost. These are space secrets, but he actually does have a secret to reveal. Last year, while working out, he pooped himself and afterward threw his underwear in the trash. That's the secret the CIA wanted to expose about him, but as president, he's realized there's nothing better than honesty, and that ends up making Banks cancel her resignation and stick around for one more day of adventures by his side. The episode closes with the president's confession tape going viral and Banks heading back to her office. We also see Adam locked up in a cell with the nation's other supervillains, and that's how the first episode of this series comes to an end.